Hello, my name is Charly Clive and I play Marnie in Pure, which you can now watch on Filmin. I've got some questions here to answer, so I'm going to do that now, but please forgive me if I mispronounce anybody's social media handle name. So at Natalia Podeva asks, Charlie, you're the best. I love you, and Pure is one of my favourite TV shows ever. Thank you, Natalia. She says, I loved how it showed the vulnerability of the people. Do you think that's the biggest potential of your role? Something that I really loved about Pure was that I think most characters, if not all of them, go through some realisation that the more open they are about what's going on inside their heads, the easier it is to deal with it. And particularly for Marnie, I think that it's really refreshing to see a character who really embraces vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. And I think, it was really exciting to portray that as an act of bravery rather than just a scared little girl. I think Marnie's vulnerability was brave and important and authentic. Next question is sort of a three-parter from at Vicent Montcat, at Raul Cano 12, at mar.corda. Ask, how do you feel playing a role with OCD and these characteristics? How did you prepare for the role? And how complicated was it to play Marnie? So before I started to play the role, I read the book Pure by Rose Cartwright, which details the author Rose Cartwright's struggle with her personal experiences with this particular sort of OCD. And it was very informative for me with regards to what Marnie goes through in her head, because it's not something that I have ever experienced myself. But we were also keen that Marnie should be a multifaceted character who wasn't just defined by the thoughts that she was having in her head. She's a funny, ambitious, courageous young woman who happens to have OCD, rather than she's a woman with OCD and that's all there is to her. It was complicated because we did lots of scenes where there'd be lots of nude people 1 minute and then I'd come back in and they were all fully clothed, which takes some getting used to. But I think that mainly I really identified with Marnie and her being a new person in a big city and making new friends and feeling like a bit of an outsider. So I related to that and I made the OCD as authentic as I could, but the complications really came with the filming rather than the character, I would say, because she was so well written. I just had to read off what was off the page. Next question is from at Abe Jan La Cerveza, which I think means beer, the last bit. Anyway, and the question is, who has inspired you to play Marnie beside Rose Cartwright? So obviously, it was very helpful meeting Rose, and her book is fabulous and was very informative about OCD. And that prepared me for the OCD side of Marnie, and also how to talk about it in an accessible way and a realistic way. But in terms of Marnie the character, I would say that I sort of created her from, I guess there's a lot of me in her. I think that lots of her facial expressions and awkward sort of like, ooh, and ooh, they're the same thing, but that sort of thing, and sort of jerky, funny reactions are mine. And she grins a lot. She's got a nervous grin because I have a nervous grin, so I injected a bit of myself into her. I was encouraged to. And also I'd say that Kirsty Swain, who wrote the scripts for the show, who is Scottish and is from the same town that Marnie's from, and I think she inspired me quite a lot too, because she's got lots of very funny, quirky mannerisms. And her accent was very useful because I do not have the same accent that Marnie has. But I think that Marnie is unlike a lot of characters you see on television, because she's funny and she's brave and she's sort of wild, but she's also battling a lot of inner demons without being a victim. So I like to think that she's sort of an original and maybe will inspire other characters. Next, I have a question from @Jared Casado, who asks, do you know any songs in Spanish? Can you sing a little bit? I'm not going to patronize any Spanish speakers by trying to sing Despacito. And I know a few nursery rhymes from when I was a kid that my mum would sing to me in Spanish, but I'm not going to sing them because nobody's paying me to. Which nicely follows on to the next question, which is from @Adaromani, I believe, who says, is it true that you have some Mexican roots? Do you speak Spanish? Yes, it is true. My grandmother on my mother's side is Mexican, and my mother so she's half Mexican, and I did grow up speaking some Spanish, and my brother still speaks very good Spanish, but I was very stubborn as a child and just didn't want to do it. So I understand a lot of Spanish better than I speak it, and I do speak some, un poquito. And I can order off a Spanish menu like a pro. I can order tapas like it's my job, but I'm not very good at conversational Spanish. I'd love to be. I would love to speak Spanish. And then I have a question here @Maite_Chu, I believe, says, do you find something of Marnie in Charly? Are you as funny as her? So I think Charly here being Charly me rather than the character in the show. And yeah, as I said earlier, definitely I think that part of the reason I think I got the role of Marnie was because I brought sort of a energy to the audition that was fitting for the character, and so we just ended up building a character that I could fit myself quite nicely into, which was very lucky. Am I as funny as her? Yes, I think so. I hope so. It's tough because I don't... I find myself very funny, and I think some of my friends do, but yeah, I hope I'm funny. My career is comedy, so if I'm not funny, I guess I better quit my day job. But I think I'm as funny as Marnie, if not slightly funnier. My next question here is from @Zayda Moore, who says, we can see some similarities in both your stand-up and Pure about confronting certain sensitive issues related with health and humour. Do you think we can or should use humour for any situation? Yeah, if you can. I think that humour is a great tool for talking about things that ordinarily are really difficult to talk about, and I would encourage people to really utilise that. Certainly I found in my personal life that humour is a great way to confront things head on and make them slightly less scary. I think if you can laugh at the monster, it's much easier to defeat it. And I was once told that tragedy is just comedy. I've messed that up. I was once told that tragedy is just comedy with a punchline. And I love that, and I think that's absolutely true. I think sometimes it's inappropriate and you shouldn't just make jokes for the sake of making jokes necessarily. But if the intentions are good behind it and it helps you and those around you, then I think that humour is just a brilliant tool and something that we should definitely use, particularly when talking about things that are hard. In the current climate with the pandemic, I think that if we can find the humour in it, and if we can try and make each other laugh and try and cheer each other up with comedy, then we should be. I think absolutely we should be. And the last question I have is from @Tonitio, who says, who would you rather have disturbing sexual thoughts with, Donald Trump or Boris Johnson? I think the question is disturbing enough that it doesn't really need an answer, but either of those alternatives are deeply scarring. I'd have to say neither. If I could, I'd say neither, but really I just think the question's disturbing enough on its own. So yeah, I feel like a YouTuber. Also, this is the first time I've worn makeup since lockdown maybe, so this feels kind of nice. Thanks for listening. Thanks for asking questions. Thanks for watching Pure.
Adios!